You know what, Mark? I believe you might be the first person. Actually, I know you were the first person that I have had on the pod that I got to comb through their IMDb,
Okay.
which was awesome. This is like a. I was aware that like IMDb, like some people put wrestling on it, but like you had a decent IMDb, and I was like, oh my god, here's Mark Shuttle, the IMDb man, and it revealed a lot of interesting shit actually, because I did not know where you started your journey
Okay.
in professional wrestling. Now I do, but we're gonna start from the very beginning because I do, with people in Europe and especially the UK, I'm always intrigued of when they started watching wrestling.
Hmm. Okay. So fun fact, my earliest memory is actually watching wrestling on TV, sitting with my old man when I was about 3 years old. And I only know I was about 3 years old because I remember the house we were living in at the time. And I believe we moved out when I was around four, maybe before then, when my younger sister was born. And I couldn't tell you what it was we were watching, couldn't tell you who was in the match. All I remember is that we were sitting in like the front room in that house when I was probably around 3 years old. And that's my earliest memory.
That is so awesome, dude. And also oddly similar to me, the first thing I remember, period, about wrestling was Jimmy Snuka walking to the ring at WrestleMania 5 of all WrestleManias because my uncle was like, you wouldn't shut the fuck up. And I didn't know what to do. And I had wrestling tapes. And I was like, maybe. And it ruined everyone else's life because then every family outing, I was like, we got to stop at the mall. I got to go to Suncoast Video and go get a DVD or VHS for God's sake. That's awesome. It kind of seems obvious to me, and I mean, full disclosure to everybody, like you and I actually somehow talk in DMs a lot lately, so I definitely could tell that you had a passion for it. It's really cool that it seems to be like a literal like beginning of life situation, and that is oddly rare. I know you're in the business, so you see it like it's weird to me people that like are big in wrestling that are like, oh, I got into it in like college or high school, and I'm like, really? Wow. I mean, obviously different strokes, different folks, and all that, but it is intriguing how that isn't exactly the norm, I would say.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I never really considered it from that angle before. Because as I said, like I've really grown up like just watching wrestling my whole life, really.
Yep.
The thing which probably weirds me out the most is that like, and it makes me feel old at the same time, is when it's like, oh, people are like, who was your favorite wrestler as a child? And the first guys I really like, remember and was huge fans of were the likes of, Hogan and the Warrior when they were on top of WWF back then.
Yep.
So when I hear these kids and they're like, oh yeah, when I was growing up, like Austin and The Rock. And I'm like, Austin and The Rock, I'd been like watching like 10 years at that point.
Yeah.
And then, like we got some like guys coming up through the academy here right now. And they grew up on like the PG era. So like literally like their favorites would be guys like, and who they grew up with would be like Cena and Orton. And it's like,
Yeah.
damn, I'm old.
Dude, I feel that every day. I mean, the first match I watched was Flair and Sting tagging against Vader and Rick Rude
Oh,
in
wow.
'94. So I'm kind of right there with you. Like, Attitude Era for me was like the zenith of my fandom. Absolutely. That I was still like a little kid. I was still like 9 or 10. But I feel like I still, I was already like, I knew it was a work because of WrestleMania 11. The main
Yeah.
event of WrestleMania 11, Diesel, Shawn Michaels, not main event, sorry, excuse me, Lawrence Taylor. I don't want to, disparage poor Lawrence Taylor. Bam Bam, by the way, great match for anyone wanting to look at a celebrity match that isn't embarrassing. But the title match of that, for whatever reason, I just remember thinking, like, there's no way Diesel is getting beat up by this little guy. And it's not even the little part. if you watch that match, it is very clearly a work. You know, you're like, okay, this is like not even trying to like hide it here. So, yeah, I definitely feel what you feel about that, dude. The people at work too. Oh my god, at the quote unquote shoot job. Oh my god, so often I'll hear an Edge is my favorite or Rey Mysterio, and I'm like, dude, I was already super into this when Rey Mysterio showed up into my life. Like, it's crazy.
Mm,
But
yeah.
you know, that's life, I guess, and thank God these youngins are into it. You know, like I don't know, but so we know you got into wrestling at 3. How did you get into production?
Oh man. In my teenage years, I kind of fell out of love with wrestling for a bit, and like I wasn't such a huge fan of the Attitude Era. I know that for most people that was like, oh, the greatest thing ever. But for me, having been a fan for like 10ish years at this point, I didn't really care for it as much. For the most part, it was like DX were over as hell, and I'm like, these guys are acting just like all the absolute fucking idiots I hate at school. Like, I don't want to watch this. Like, I don't care for this. And I got more and more into music. And so I got, as well as like, I played guitar and bass, and like, I was fine, I guess. But I started getting more into music production. So, trying to do like live sound, and also like, back in like the very late 90s, I was trying to experiment with like, okay, so how can I record music on my computer? And like, I didn't really know anything at this point, but I'm
Wow.
like, I have a guitar. The computer has like a microphone input, and it's like the guitar has a jack cable. That's a mini jack. Surely I just need a converter and I can record it. And it wasn't that simple. Obviously, it sounded absolutely fucking dog shit. Um, but yeah, I just got really interested in music production. So, I started doing more of that. I had a little like home studio in my teenage years and my early 20s. At one point, I was part of a band, and we like recorded a whole album in our drummer's garage.
That's
Um,
awesome, dude.
and yeah, I just really got into it through that end of things. And at one point, I think I was around 20 years old. Me and my drummer at the time, Christoph, we decided we were going to go back to college to study music, just because we wanted to be better musicians more than anything else. And as part of like the syllabus the college had laid out for us, there was a couple of lessons we had every week on video production. So like making like music videos, making short documentaries, that kind of thing. So that was really like the first time I guess I properly picked up a video camera and just started experimenting with stuff, experimenting with editing, and just doing this kind of stuff. And it was cool, it was interesting, but I had a little like mini DV handy cam for a while I played around with, but I didn't
Oh,
really care for it that much.
yeah.
I wasn't like super into it, but I had that background and I had that understanding of kind of like, just things like signal flow, a little bit of editing, and obviously all the kind of like sound and music production background. So that really kind of like helped when I did eventually get into the wrestling business, because I was bringing a bunch of skills, which, not a lot of people kind of were at that stage.
No. And that, yeah, I can definitely attest to that because back in the day, like, it was very one note in everything. Like, very few people tried to, like, dip their toes in multiple waters. And so that definitely gave you an edge, I feel like.
Yeah, well, like my introduction to the business actually, like, there was a magazine that used to be published like once a month over here, Power Slam. I don't know if they
Yes.
managed to. Okay, cool. So you know about it. Awesome.
Yep.
Like, and that was a great magazine. I used to pick that up, and one month I'm reading it, and at the end, like the news column, it's like, oh, and next month there's going to be a booking and promoting seminar, January 14th, 2012, in Dagenham, which was literally just like one stop on the tube from where I was living at the time. And it was also just like, a 5-minute walk from like one of the music studios we used to rehearse at. So I'm just like, holy shit, I am doing this. I am there.
Yeah.
Um, And, you know, went to this seminar, and being the absolute fucking idiot I was, I'm like, I'm going to do this like 1 day booking and promoting course. And I'm going to come out of this and I'm going to fucking, you know, be the next Vince McMahon. I'm going to change the fucking business. I'm going to take this motherfucker over.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing I did learn on that seminar was that as much as I thought I knew from, you know, looking at like the forums online, as much as I thought I knew, like, you know, talking to other wrestling fans, I actually had no fucking idea what was really going on in wrestling, how things really worked. And I remember like that first seminar, there was maybe 25, 30 of us. And I remember looking around the room and you could tell a lot of people like this realization also hit them, but they really didn't like that. Like they kind of like, they refused to accept it, you know? Whereas for me, I'm like, oh shit. So if it isn't how I thought it was, what is it really like? Like, how does this shit really work? And that just really, like, you know, inspired me and pushed me to like want to do more and really do everything I could to like just understand this business, to understand the art of wrestling and how all of this shit comes together.
That's so funny because I have firmly believed, and I've told people close to me, that what you just said. I think there's two different people. I think there's the people that figure out that it's more than what you see on TV, and they do the thing that a lot of people do, and I'm not hating on it, but they sort of just leave it at that, and they go on with their life. And it's not even that they don't like wrestling anymore. They go, all right, I figured it out, and they move on in their minds. And then there's people like apparently you and I, where you figure out like, oh no, there's a lot to this, and there's bookers, and there's this, and you go, I gotta know everything. I gotta know how this works.
Absolutely.
And you know, here I am, 37 years old, talking to a guy in Germany about pro wrestling on my own free time, own free will, and it's because this just fascinates me. The more I watch, the more that I input into my brain of wrestling, and I watch a lot of shit. I don't ever get burned out for some reason. And I think it's that. I think I'm always wanting to know more because there is more to learn. I think that's the other thing you learn as you really get deep into it. And, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, but, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think anyone's ever figured it all out. Bill Watts didn't. So I feel like if he didn't, then no one fucking did.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you know, I learn little things and I have these like moments of realization all the time. And you know, sometimes it's just, you know, I'll just be standing somewhere, shutting the fuck up and just listening to what people are saying, listen to people break shit down. And, you know, that's really fucking interesting. And, you know, I've been like blessed to be around some fucking like smart motherfuckers in this business. And, you know, most of the time, if they're speaking, I am just going to shut the fuck up because like, unless I've got a specific question to ask, you know, there's nothing I can add to this fucking conversation. Like they're smarter than me. Like, and, you know, like, it reminds me, like old friend of mine, he was a camera operator for a while. He doesn't really do it anymore, Jamie. But we were talking about, you know, someone we know, and it's like that guy always wants to be the smartest motherfucker in the room. But it's like if he's the smartest motherfucker in the room, he's in the wrong fucking room.
Yeah.
And like, and I know I've kind of got to a point, and I said this a few months ago to some guys. Like, I think as far as like, you know, production in indie wrestling goes, quite often I do end up being the smartest man in the room, right? And I'm so desperate to find people who do know more, who can help me. And so there was this thing in the UK about 6 months ago called Clash of the Comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's pro wrestlers versus comedians. And I know the guys who've run it for a number of years. They used to do this as like...
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, it just hit me. Yeah, it's like a stage show sort of thing.
That's right. And they did this as like a small thing for years as part of like the Edinburgh Fringe Comedy Festival. And I did like a show for them up there. And, you know, awesome guys. And they said like, oh, we've got like this potential TV deal. Like, can you come in and help us? And I'm just like, yeah, fucking absolutely. And it was so awesome because like, you know, obviously I come from like a wrestling background. Is a little more, you know, DIY, bootstrap it. Like we got some very small budgets compared to what like these guys are working with. So, you know, being as part of this production with like this phenomenal director, Ben, who hadn't done wrestling, but he was a fan. He really respected it. And like watching how he would like shoot and cut and produce like a show with like, you know, a lot more cameras than, you know, we ever have access to. And like him taking that vision of like, you know, of just making it big and exciting and everything else. I'm like, wow, this is so good. And like just talking to some of the other tech guys, you know, the lighting guys, the sound guys, and just like just learning from these people and picking their brains was like, I fucking love that so much. And I know like I definitely walked away from that kind of production like better than I walked into it. And I don't get as many of those moments in my career anymore, but holy shit, when I get them, I fucking love them so much. They're amazing.
Oh, dude, and that's how I feel talking to literally all you guys in WXW. Like that is the exact experience I would explain. Like when I really like, because I've been in and out, and you know, I when I talked to Felix, I told him, you know, the whole thing about like my buddy in college showed me Carrot 2012.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that point, I was already a massive PWG fan, and of course, Generico and Steen and him winning that year. And then that's where I figured out who Tommy End was, and just all of it. Karsten, of course, rest in peace. And, you know, but you couldn't follow it back then. It was not simple to do. And you think about it, and I think about this all the time. And, you know, I'm sure you're about to be like, I fucking know. It blows your mind the time in that way where you go 2012. God, I remember thinking like it will never get more advanced than this. We've got it figured out. And you couldn't stream live wrestling. Nobody was doing that really at the time. They were, but it was shitty. You know, those Go Fight Live fucking ROH pay-per-views are trash, man. I don't know how many of those I wasted money on. And then, you know,
Same.
Oh
Same.
my God, man. And I can't imagine with that like going international with those, that had to have been a fucking disaster.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, I think like, you know, for the most part, the indies, like, you know, we had a pretty good little business model there for the most part with like the DVDs and stuff, right? Yeah. Because obviously, and this is something, you know, I've had many conversations with people about, in that sometimes it's like, we were kind of more profitable with DVDs, like in a straight kind of like per view or like per purchase like transaction, you know? You know, if you sold like one DVD for like, you know, 10 euros, like pretty much 9 euros of that was pure profit. But now, like you said, a subscription for like 10 euros a month, and it's nowhere near that good anymore. But you are able to reach a much wider audience and have much wider influence. And I think that's maybe the trade-off there, you know?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, and I'm a testament to that. You're like, you guys being on WXW now, and I was like, okay, you know what? I know of them. I know that they basically are the place that anyone has gone and kind of applied their craft. I mean, the history of WXW speaks for itself in that way. I mean, literally everybody that's a top guy right now went through WXW at some point after, you know, obviously a certain year, but like literally across the board. Moxley was there. Mm-hmm. Swerve was there. Osprey was there. I mean, I literally could just keep going on and on. The Bucks even worked there at one point.
Yeah. Like, pretty much everyone, you know, like you go back even further, like guys like Punk and Raven came through, Sandman, like before, like then on some of the very, very early stuff. So like I was putting together the like reveal clip for the Inner Circle Homecoming show to like, you know, celebrate that like we're going back to where it all began.
Yeah.
And I just kind of made a list of like everyone who like worked maybe not strictly in that building, but in that city in Essen. And like the list was insanely long, and it's like, you know, I've got a 30-second clip. I can't include like half of these fucking guys.
Yeah. Dude.
Just because there's so many. And, you know, like in that clip, we still had like so many like big fucking stars in there. You know, like Danielson, Punk, Raven, they were all in there. Like a whole bunch of like amazing fucking Japanese guys. Like, and as well, like guys who ended up becoming much bigger stars in Germany, guys who maybe aren't like household names, like Robbie Brookside, who like, you know, has been so influential to like the European scene. And I believe he's still a trainer with NXT. So, you know, he's really like influencing the next generation. Like, just so many incredible fucking wrestlers have just walked through these doors. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about a promotion in Germany has survived all these super indies, all these other companies. I mean, I think people really don't even understand how long that WXW has been around either. They started when WCW was just starting to die.
Yeah, when you put it like that, that is fucking crazy.
ECW was in business in December 2000 when they started running shows. And granted, you know, like I know Felix is very like kind of adamant, like, hey, that we didn't really start being serious about this till later. But it's like, hey, man, you started running shows, it counts. Like, it doesn't matter. But
yeah, and I think that's how a lot of like shows started, like in that era as well. Like guys were like, we just want to put on a show because like there's no shows here, and like if we don't do it, who the fuck else is?
yeah, and I feel like, man, I that sort of fire lacks these days in a lot of places. Like, that's why, like, I'll give a weird shout out to my buddy Ben and his company in Arkansas, RevPro. That's a very similar situation as to the guys in Essen, because I'm a crazy person. I watch Timeline with the awful Google Translate subtitles, but it works enough that you get the gist of what they're saying. And I mean, they literally were like, dude, it was basically backyard feds all across the country for a while. Like, there was nothing going on. I mean, it was a dead zone in Germany for wrestling in like the late 90s, early 2000s for the most part. There were things running, but not a lot. And
yeah, I mean, realistically, I think that's the same way across like most of Europe. You know, like the UK scene, because you know I wasn't really following the German scene at that point, but I know the UK scene there wasn't really much happening. There'd be someone come across every now and then who would try something, but you know it would kind of fizzle out and die very quickly. And it's kind of like, especially with the UK, because you know I can talk a little more about this because I know more. But like we had like our own TV up until the late 80s.
yeah.
And, you know, like it did really good numbers. It was appointment viewing for so much of the population. But then, like, you know, WWF started sending their tapes over and people saw that, like, you know, increased production value. And you know, by comparison, our stuff looked fucking terrible. So, you know, and then there's a story about a guy by the name of Greg Dyke who become like the head of ITV where like the shows are broadcast. And he was very much like, you know, like the British wrestling world of sport, like it's old hat, it's old news, we're moving in a different direction. And, you know, arguably, like you talk about wrestling being sports entertainment, I think within like 3 years, you had Gladiators on ITV. And that was like, you know, doing crazy numbers every Saturday night. And arguably, that's still, you know, sports entertainment. You know, it had characters, it was very athletic, you know, so it might not be wrestling, but it's, you know, not a million miles away. But obviously they had big, high production value, everything really well lit. Everything looked amazing. And, you know, that's kind of what like the promoters claim they didn't have the money to do, but whether that's true or not, I couldn't tell you. But I think that's one of the reasons why British wrestling kind of like fell on its arse a bit. And so, you know, a lot of the guys who were stars in the era, you know, they continued doing like shows up and down the country for a while, but eventually the audience forgets. Like they're not reminded it's there anymore. They're reminded how big stars these guys are. They've moved on from wrestling because they're not seeing it every week. So, you know, then it really kind of just like, you know, falls on its ass. There's not really much going on. And again, it's kind of like you come to the like late 90s and then really, you know, FWA started popping up, getting big, getting exciting. It was very much like an outlaw, maybe not outlaw promotion, but it's very much against like tradition at the time to be a more Americanized company compared to the very traditional like world of sport and its rounds. And, you know, it's more technical approach as opposed to, you know, kind of like high flying and theatrics and like over the top characters. But yeah, they absolutely like made a big fucking impression. And so like they're like, I think the real like big first show they did was British Uprising, which I didn't go to, but like I remember I had it on like a double VHS later on.
Oh yeah.
And And I later found out that, both Felix and Stuart Zagers, who's like been part of our video team forever, were both there at that show because like that's how big and influential it was, like not just in the UK, but to like fans all across Europe. And that to me is just fucking awesome that, that company was able to really do that and really like inspire, I think so much of what like we kind of see in modern European wrestling, both in the UK and across Germany, because, they were kind of like the first like modern indie, I think that like Europe had at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, that dude, I'll tell you right now, that FWA stuff, it definitely had some reach over here because of the guys they were bringing in. Like there's the infamous Punk Joe match over there. That's kind of, and I mean, I'm not being a hater. It's just kind of a nothing match, really. But it got, I remember the message boards freaking out about they went to England, and like that was a novelty. And that's another thing people got to realize about that scene is like that really was a big deal back then for you to wrestle in the UK. And I mean, it still is, but like it was a whole different thing back then because you weren't even getting flown in your own country as an independent wrestler ever really at that point. I mean, in the early 2000s, those guys are loading up in cars. They're driving however many hours to Ian's to not get paid.
Yeah.
Also about Felix, speaking of Ian, I really think if there's a real Doctor Who on this planet, it's fucking Felix Kohlenberg, because half of the shows that are out there that have clips from back in the day, he's like, I was there. And I'm like, what? Really? Holy shit. Like he was at TPI 04 or something crazy. And I'm like, what? Like the dude just, what a fucking wealth of knowledge that guy is. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Like Felix just fucking loves wrestling. He watches so much wrestling.
God, yes, he does.
But this is also why, he's kind of got an eye for a lot of like, the US indie talents because he watches so much of it. So like he sees a guy who maybe people don't realize is going to be like a guy yet. And, we've already kind of like got him flown over and booked. And people go, oh, why are they flying that guy over? And then, a few years later, like, oh, damn. I think like with Manders as well, like, you could tell he was good, but no one, I think, was really talking about Manders so much at the first time he come over to Germany. Yeah. And you look at how his stock has risen like everywhere, like across the globe in the last, I guess, like 2 or 3 years since he's been working with us. And, I'm not saying it's because of us, but like, obviously Felix saw that early on and was like, this guy.
No, I'll tell you right now, it's you guys for a lot of reasons, but it's specifically you guys because of the way that, and I don't know the logistics of like what Felix does or whatever does. I know Felix is a huge part of creative and all that, but it's the structure of your company. It's you're running loops. You're not sitting in a warehouse running once a month. You're moving. You're seeing different audiences. Like not every WXW show is the same. And when you are in that environment as a wrestler, you couldn't help but get better. And I've seen it, Manders will have like a really cool, like We Love Wrestling, like quick match with like, I don't know, like Fast Time Mudo, right? Or somebody like that. And then the next show, he might be main event for the Unified World Wrestling Championship against Bloom. And it's, I think him being in that environment, I've seen it over here now. When he comes over here, it's a whole different environment of his matches and the reactions he's getting. I mean, people are starting to realize, like you said, oh wow, WXW is flying out Manders and Thomas Shire. What's that about? Well, because they're the fucking best guys, like they're coming up.
And as well, like, it's great you point out, that we're doing all these different places, and that can only help a wrestler by working in front of different crowds. Like, if you're in front of the same, like a couple of hundred people in a warehouse every month, like, you don't really learn or grow from that because, they're pretty much always going to, like, react the way you want and expect them to. But, when you suddenly get like thrown into like, okay, so we do like Oberhausen more than anything, that's really our home audience. But then all of a sudden, you're down in Frankfurt. The crowd's slightly different down there. Then we're going up to Hamburg. And, they react a little differently up there as well. And, especially in Hamburg, they have their Steh auf, wenn du Wrestling liebst chant, like stand up if you love wrestling.
Yeah.
And also, like, that throws a little bit of a curveball into things because, like, they get so excited, they start singing, clapping, standing up. They're not kind of fully in with the match anymore. So then, just because, like, they got too fucking excited by what already happened, which is like awesome. But at the same time, it's like you kind of need, it can be a learning experience. Like, okay, so like, what do we do now? Because, like, we maybe can't progress with the spot the same way we were going to. And we kind of need to either find a way to get them back on or just wait for them to calm down and then we can carry on with our story. Or like, how do we work with that? Because, like, you want the crowd like there with you, but they just got too fucking hyped because they love what you're doing so much. And, you've got to work out how to work with that. And then, this weekend coming, we're going to Dresden and Leipzig over in Eastern Germany. And again, those crowds are going to react differently to how the crowds in like Oberhausen, Frankfurt, and Hamburg react. They don't get to see us as often. So, and they're maybe not as like up to date with storylines as some of these other crowds are. So that's going to be interesting. Like, how are they going to react differently there? What are they going to buy differently? What are they not going to buy? So, yeah, I think that really like tests you as like a wrestler to learn how to work with and engage with and get these crowds where you kind of want and need them,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is the difference. Like, your top guys, and just not even your top guys, I feel like everybody, I mean, even like a Jane Nero, like there's a certain thing about WXW wrestlers that have been there specifically, for a while, is they can take over a crowd. They're not getting thrown off by the crowd. Like, for instance, I was watching a weird thing from 2019 because I'm doing this whole series on the pandemic shotguns because I'm insane and I don't know what it is. The pandemic, like when it was happening, I was enjoying it for what it was because there was nothing else and it was dire and, we're all trying to survive. Then I started thinking like, that is the craziest time in the history of wrestling, simply because wrestling is this give and take medium with the audience, and you don't have the take. You don't have the give. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You're just looking at a red light. So those people that really got better in that moment, to me, and Ahura, I think, is a guy that I would consider that, right? And Peter Tahani and people that rose out of that and got better, that is just like a special kind of performer. And then you add in just WXW's environment overall, where I think, guys like Chris Hero have said, like, it really forces you to be like a Swiss Army knife because there is so many different aspects to that audience. Like, everyone's not just looking for that one note. You got to be really different to stand out there. And I really appreciate that. Just like I appreciated back in the day, WrestleTalk TV. How was that? Because that, when I read that you were part of that, I was like, oh my God.
So I come on board with WrestleTalk like after that seminar I did. Like, it was the same guys kind of running the seminar as we're running WrestleTalk, and it was just a YouTube channel at this point, right? And I think like they always kind of wanted to make it a TV show, but like it was more of a pipe dream than anything else. And so we knew a guy who basically was dealing in TV rights. And at the time, they were actually managing the TV rights for TNA. Wow. And so they were talking to the broadcaster, Challenge TV at the time. And so, the guys running it were like, look, just try and get us like on there. Just try and get us on there. Just try and get us on there. And I can't remember like how the conversation was described to me, but essentially it was just a quick kind of throwaway thing like, oh, like we're doing this with like TNA, and oh, like what about if we did this like WrestleTalk thing to follow it up immediately? And it was for like no money. Like, the network didn't really care, but they were like, yeah, sure, fuck it, we'll give it a go.
Of course.
And so from there, we actually did a pilot. We shot at this metal pub in North London, and it went fucking terribly. It was one of the worst things I have ever been a part of in my life. So basically, there was another guy we had working with us who come out the seminar with me, and he was like a media student at university. I don't know, he maybe had just graduated that summer when we did the taping. Or maybe they were just finishing up. I can't fully remember. So basically, he got like the equipment and the crew from university, and like we had to drag all this stuff in. We pretty much like turned this pub upside down to turn it into like a little set for the day,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. And a lot of these university kids, like, they had the qualifications on paper, but they were fucking, I think, clueless as to like the real world implementation and like the problem solving aspect that comes alongside doing a production on a budget.
Right.
I remember one of the issues being that we were struggling to find a way to get the microphones that like the hosts and the talent were wearing and pump them out front of house so the audience could actually hear them. And I can't remember exactly what this mixer was, but I remember taking a look at it and going like, if we can get like a cable to go from here to here, then like we just need to route like the front of house mix through the Yorks, and then we get this into here for the recording, blah, 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 blah. And I just remember there was this little French girl, and she just looked at me like I was the biggest sack of shit she had ever seen in her life. And so I'm like, okay, well, there's the information. Do with it what you will. And I just kind of like walked up. I was like, fuck this. I'm there to help. Like, and at that point, none of us were getting paid for it because it's like, this was like the pilot, I was trying to like, I can't remember. Maybe they hadn't approved this yet, or maybe they hadn't. This was going to be the first episode because our plan, I think, long term was to shoot like every 2 weeks in this pub. And I think we had Bobby Roode on as a guest at the time because he was the TNA World Champion. And yeah, it was just fucking terrible, quite frankly. So that never happened. And then they completely they went, okay, we got this little studio in Dagenham, like the same place where I did the seminar. They're like, we need to turn this into like our studio. And to like, if you look at the early season, the backdrop's just kind of got like all these like pictures of random wrestlers like torn out from magazines.
Yeah.
And so I took my collection of like fucking power slams and FSMs and everything else, and me and Joel Ross, who was the host, we spent a day in this like fucking warehouse just ripping them up and plastering them on to try and make it look like a wrestling fan's bedroom kind of thing. And so, my like, whole back catalog collection got destroyed for that. But like at the time, like I really believed in what we were doing there. And, and so that became the set. And, like, again, we were on a tiny budget. Like we could barely afford like the boards we were pasting them onto or the paste to actually paste them or any of that stuff, in all honesty. But, we found a way and we made that set. We made it all happen. And yeah, I think then for the first episode, we managed to get an interview with Chris Jericho, which was like, at the time, like so huge. I think he was on tour with Fozzy at the time.
That makes sense. Yeah, I do remember that. I remember the Rude thing too. I watched it a lot. Like that's why like when I saw that you were involved, I was like, oh my God. It was like when you get like that deep memory unlock when someone mentions something. I was like, WrestleTalk TV, where the fuck? Oh God. It's wild. And a lot of that is because one of my really good friends in like being a fan is from Scotland. So I mean, I was on the UK forums back in the day. So
yeah.
It's so fascinating how that all like plays out, like I can't imagine from your perspective either, like what you're talking about, where it's like there's no budget to you're like, this is the shits, and I'm over here in shitty fucking, at the time I'm in Arkansas, so real shitty America, going, WrestleTalk TV is pretty neat. And then again, that was a different time. Like there weren't 150 million wrestling related things on YouTube. There really wasn't. There was just like people doing it. Like I think Wrestle with Regret was around.
Yeah.
Cole Cabana. I mean, that was kind of what was going on. I can't think of anybody else really.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and you know, like I think the thing is like there was no budget, but we just basically like we're just gonna do our best to make this happen because you know during like we fucking love wrestling. This is a
Yeah.
cool idea. Like, and if it works, maybe there's some money like later on down the road somewhere. So you know, like yeah, we really worked our asses off to make that thing kind of like the best it could be, you know. And like so at one point there was like conversation I was going to start getting paid. I didn't really start getting paid. That's a whole nother story though.
Indie wrestling, brother.
Oh yeah, that was a hard lesson. Because like I was out of work at the time anyway. Because like I've been working in like this bar for like 10 years or so, and I was just like, fuck this. I had enough of them. There was like a change with like management and shit, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Like I'm wasting my life. So like I was credited, I think at the time as like an associate producer, and essentially like I was like doing everything I potentially could to make this the best it could be. So, you know, and at times that involved things like picking up like the mini DV tapes for us to record on, like going down and actually setting up the set every like Monday afternoon, putting everything in place, getting all like the equipment ready. So then, you know, when the rest of the crew and the talent turned up, we were ready to go. And then every week I would have to take the final rendered file from our editor Sam and take it to this like production house in central London. They would then take that file, like master it for us and legalize it so there were no issues for the broadcast, put it back on a giant I can't remember what cassette it was, but a giant cassette that the broadcaster needed.
Yeah.
And then I would have to pick that up 24 hours later and then take it to the broadcaster on the other side of West London, because I was like living East London and or right on the outskirts of East London. And the broadcaster was even further out. And yeah, take it to them like every week and be like, here's the tape.
That's so much work. Like people that don't
Yeah.
realize. I only know because my wife studied abroad, so she explained it
Yeah.
one time. Like, no. London can mean a lot of different places.
Yeah, London's fucking huge, bro.
It's so huge. So, yeah, you were doing it for the love of the game, quite literally, man. You were fucking not getting paid.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, and hoping that money was gonna come in.
yeah. Well, hopefully you got paid for IPW.
Yeah, I got paid for IPW and some of that stuff we were doing. So like my first actual show was Brit Rest Fest in 2012. And so I was kind of just helping where I could, and then I was kind of like working with the in-house audio engineer just on like music cues and timings and stuff. And truthfully, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I was just trying not to piss off any wrestlers by fucking up their entrances.
Right.
And that was super cool. And that was held the same day as WrestleMania, April 1st, 2012.
Oh my God.
So yeah. And that was cool. You know, like so much amazing talent on that show. I think it was maybe one of like Doug Williams' first matches back in the UK after like being in America for a while and working with TNA. And yeah, super, super cool. So yeah, I did IPW, and they were like the first company I started working for regularly. And so you know, again, it was pretty horrific because like I don't drive. Growing up in London, you know, a lot of people don't drive because there's no need, because the public transport's amazing. But at this point I'm now like 27 years old, and I'm like, okay, I've got to go do this show, which was like down in Swanley in Kent, so just outside of London. And so, you know, I would have to go to the studio in Dagenham, pick up 3 cameras, pick up the tripods, jump all the way on a train to central London, then a train out to Swanley, and then like a 15-minute walk from the station to, you know, just do these shows. But the promoter at the time, like, you know, he seemed to like me for one reason or another, so I got invited to come do like shows with him all the time, which was great. You know, I was very happy with that. And as well, some of the IPW shows at that point were ran by Andy Quilden, who now runs Revolution Pro.
Okay.
So, you know, like I was like there on the first RevPro show filming that, and I did some stuff with those guys for years. And yeah, like that was cool. It's kind of my inner, just like, you know, it was like, we got some cameras. Here's a guy who's willing to like take them and film the shows. Go do your thing. And I'm like, okay, I'll go do my fucking thing. And honestly, I had no clue what the fuck I was doing. I had no idea how to shoot wrestling at that time. Like I was trying to figure it out, but realistically, I didn't know enough about it or what I was doing. But I was like, fuck it. If this is like my way in, then this is what I'm gonna take. So
Absolutely.
this is gonna be the way I get in. Because like obviously I had like ambitions of being a booker and promoter coming out of that booking and promoting course.
Right.
And so I was all like, oh, you're going to learn so much, like standing there at ringside, being a part of it. And I never really understood that at the beginning, actually. And now I do. And I think it's like, maybe I didn't realize, I definitely didn't realize what I was learning at the time. But like when you're stood there right next to the ring, like watching these guys do what they do, but also like hearing and feeling that crowd, I feel like it really helps you pick up like an instinct for what's going on and like the energy and the feel of a match in a way which like you maybe don't get if you're kind of like, stood further back, just because, you're really like hearing and feeling that crowd in very much the same way that the wrestlers are in that moment. And I think that's helped me huge over the years.
Oh yeah, I mean it shines through in like how you direct the shows. I mean, I can't remember a time, at least in a while, that I've watched you guys and you like miss a spot or don't really get in on a guy cutting a promo, like little things like that. And I know me and you have talked about this like in private, but like that makes all the difference in the world. You don't need a whole lot of money to make your production look good and be there and be on time. And what you're saying, like being on the floor for all those years. And obviously too, you're in the UK, there's guys like Zack Sabre Jr. coming in and out, so like you're seeing really good shit too, so where to be. I think that really lends itself to what you do now for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that huge.
Yeah,
And there were so many like amazing wrestlers coming over. And I remember this was one of the York Hall shows RevPro did. And I believe the main event was Prince Devitt and Yushin Thunder Liger. And as well,
I remember that one, yes.
Right. And that was superb. And as well, one of the things I really remember about that is like, you had some fucking phenomenally talented guys on the undercard, and they had kind of done, in many ways, everything there is to do. And then you have these two guys come out and they slow it the fuck down. They keep it simple, but they had the crowd in the palm of their hands. And it was just absolute magic.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when that happens is when you really sort of like understand like, oh, okay, this is how it's supposed to be every time. Like, I think that's why a lot of people are so negative on shit these days, is because, yes, is there a lot of filth and slop? Absolutely. But it's like, there's so much good shit, though. Why are we even paying attention to that? Like,
no, absolutely. Like, if there's a product you don't like, don't watch it. Go find something else. And like, you're going to have to try a few things, and you're going to have to wait for a little bit of shit until you find something that maybe really resonates with you. But there's no point wasting your time watching bad wrestling when there is so much good wrestling out there. Like, the wife's always like, oh, like, do you want to watch Raw? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, the more I watch WWE these days, the more I realize that, that product just isn't for me anymore. It doesn't interest me. It doesn't excite me in any way. And, again, like that's the shit I grew up on and I loved it for years. And I still think, there's times when I do some really good stuff. But for the most part, the product, the style, the presentation, it doesn't do a lot for me anymore. So I just don't bother watching it. I go looking out for other stuff, which does interest me. And like, if I'm going to be honest, most of what I watch these days is probably old stuff on YouTube that I randomly find rather than keeping up with a lot of like modern products. But I feel like, that's fine too. You got, because there's so much other stuff I haven't seen still. There's stuff in the last 10, 20, 30 years I would never have seen before. And it's great to watch. And again, not every match, not every character, not every angle's going to hit. That's fine. Even with the greatest products in the world, like not everything's going to hit. Like, but find something you do mostly enjoy and you're not just fucking hate watching. I hate this like whole era of, you know, all these guys online like, oh, I watched fucking Dynamite. It was shit. This is why it's the worst. This is what they need to do to fix it. WWE was the drizzling shits. They fucked it all up. Here's what
Yeah.
they need to do to fix it. Like, I don't care if you hate it that much, watch something else. But, you know, like, I guess a lot of these guys are just doing it for the clicks because that's how they make their living now. But I feel that we've created a very shitty industry there, if I'm being entirely honest.
I agree. And I will also say straight up that I have had way more success in this whatever I do, content creation, rambling about wrestling, and I'm 37 thing, being less negative than I
Yeah.
ever did being that guy. Because I mean, yeah, you know, when you're trying to find your way, it's like you try to find any angle that you can. You know, I love that that becomes like a thing that's a negative too. You know, that's like a, well, you know, you're grasping for straws. It's like, well, I mean, when you're basically back is against the wall and you're like, hey, I want to make this a thing, you're gonna come up with some shit that doesn't work. It's like you said about angles. It's like that's just part of this. And you know, I did do a lot of podcasts about WWE, look at these idiots. And then I realized, like, first off, that's a opinion. And this, what you're saying, this cottage industry of opinion is fact, is really what it is. It's these people that try to sell you an opinion. And to me, that is, for one, very empty. And for two, it's like, what are you doing other than trying to create this little, like, army of goofs to just go after people that you don't like? Because that's the other part of this, where I really do believe some of them think that way. And I think that that's just like, bro, why don't you create something? That's my new one. Like, create something. If you're gonna have a criticism, okay, create something.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't think we need much more content created these days for the most part. You know,
No.
like there's just so much out there. And
Yeah.
most of it is, you know, just not good, not interesting. And it's just so much there that's like needlessly negative. And there just ain't time for that. And, you know, I think as well, it's like if you do have criticisms about a product, that's fine, as long as they're balanced and fair. And you're also acknowledging the good aspects of a product as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can't just say there is nothing out there which is 100% good, nothing out there which is 100% shit.
Not at all. Yeah. I mean, a great example is like my favorite promotion of all time as a fan is ECW. It just it hit me at the right time. It was different in the way that it shot everything. To be really honest, it's what we have now. Like what wrestling is shot as is just what they were doing in ECW in 1994 and 95. And that's the problem. You know, my new one is anybody that does something outside the box, I'm so into. Like a great example is it took me a while to get it, but I am so into the ICW no holds barred shit because it's so far left of what anybody else is fucking doing. Like, I love that shit. I loved FMW for the same reason. You know, when I finally got out of the dark ages of magazines, because I'm very late to the internet. I got to the internet in like 2005, even though I was 16. So, you know, I'm basically from Moscow in 1945. Like, it couldn't be any more desolate for culture, for anything where I was from. And it blew my fucking mind. And so that's, like you said, it's out there, guys. Good stuff is out there. WXW is part of that. Like, oh my God, I've been beating the drum for WXW since like last fall. I feel like I think I watched your guys' Pro Wrestling Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah,
it was the first time I watched everything. Before that, it was like Manders, you know, because I was already into Manders from the indie shit over here, like GCW and all that. And I was like, this guy's different. This guy's good. And then I saw like you guys, you know, he won the belt and all this shit. And I was like, oh man, like they're going with him. And I liked WXW back in the day. And then it just like fully came into focus. And then I saw Peter Tahani. And then I saw Ahura. And then I was like, Robert Dreisker's still here? Holy shit. And he's better than he's ever been? All right. Like, and it just... and it was in a time, to be really honest, where AEW was kind of losing me. And that's like the one modern thing I was really into. So I was
Hmm.
like, all right, I'm not going to be that old man screaming at the sky. I'm not going to be that person. I refuse to be. I tell my wife all the time, if I get like that, just like fucking hit me with a fucking frying pan. I'm never going to be
Yep.
that guy. And you guys, like, it's dramatic how this is going to sound, but it's quite literal. You like saved my fandom there for like a
Oh
while,
wow.
for real. I mean,
Yeah.
because even Japan, like in that time, and people got to remember last year, there was that weird pocket of awesome like Noah stuff, and I
Hmm.
got really into it, and that's when I started really writing again. Um, and that's a whole other story of like how I finally started like, really caring about this stuff. Um, so I, got my head right, quit drinking. Basically, that was the real catalyst, and I was into Noah, and then the fucking NXT monster started rearing its ugly head, and it bummed me out. It was like, damn, like Noah was my escape from all the shitty American stuff going on,
Yeah.
and then you guys came at the perfect time, and I feel like you have really, you've been riding a wave. I think, like, especially over here, I don't know about metrics or any of that, but it really does feel like there is way more conversation about WXW in America than there has been, maybe, God, ever.
Oh wow, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really keep up with like what people are saying all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I recall so like after 16 Carat this year, it was I think after the Friday night back at the hotel, like I sit down, I start copying memory cards as I always have to do after every day on those
Dude.
weekends, and I got a beer and I went outside for a cigarette, and I just opened Twitter and like the amount of posts overwhelmed me. Like I was just
Dude.
scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, I have never seen this much like talk about us ever. And it's the same thing, I'll do like every night after a festival. Like I'll go outside, I have a cigarette, and I'll look at Twitter. But this time, just the amount of people talking about the show was wow, like absolutely fucking crazy. And that's fucking so awesome, like that's really exciting to see that. Because like we've been, working our ass off. I've only been here like 4 years now.
Yeah.
But like we work so hard to, put on the best shows, to really highlight and elevate this fucking incredible roster of talent that we have. And to really see that that's connecting with people and resonating, yeah, that feels really fucking good.
And I think it's really the perfect storm, because there's a lot of people that do want an alternative to the big two in America, and for whatever reason, and they look at the indies there, and they see, I mean, the reality is Deadlock closed, Prestige
Hmm.
closed, all within like a month these announcements were made. And I
Yeah.
think there's still a shock to the scene over here. But thank God for the new initiative, man. And you guys have really been great about like showcasing West Coast Pro, and you're definitely involved in that as well. And I think that really is the biggest positive for you guys, because a lot of people over here are looking at the doom and gloom, and it's like, yeah, but look at WXW in Germany, they're killing it right now, and it's like, oh, and it's accessible, oh, and I can actually like subscribe on YouTube, oh, but they're on IWTV, I already have that for my American indies. You guys are really in that sweet spot right now where I feel like it is just so accessible, there's no excuse. If you're saying you want an alternative, it's right here.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's so awesome that we get to work with like great companies like West Coast and all these other guys who we partner with and do stuff with,
Yeah.
because like I think for a lot of people kind of see like indie wrestlers like, oh, like you should just be about you and your company and you got to do everything to make yourself the best. It's like, well, we are trying to make ourselves the best, but we just need to work with everyone else in this whole kind of like ecosystem around us. Like we can't exist entirely on our own, like, okay, we've got the academy and, like we're producing some really good talent from there. But, you know, we still need to be able to bring in talent from outside who are then going to bring in different ideas, different perspectives, different skills, a different appeal, a different audience. And, you know, we can't just work purely alone. And so, you know, when there is someone like a West Coast, you know, who are doing great things on the other side of the world, like, it's great to partner with them and, you know, to have a weekend like Carrot where we're bringing in like some of their guys and getting to highlight them and showcase them. And, you know, maybe show like some of the German and European audience who maybe aren't familiar with them, like, look at this other cool shit that's happening. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and it's the same for them, right? And by the way, shout out to the German fans. They have been overwhelmingly, you know, since I've really sort of started, you know, to use the DVDVR term, pimp you guys out throughout the social medias, you know, the German fans have found me, and they're all the best. Like, I have not had one person that reminds me of an American fan, and thank God, because that's another one where I just, you know, especially on fucking Twitter, it was getting dire. I was like, I had given up on it, and then for whatever reason, well, actually, the reason was all the DVDVR guys that I want to annoy and talk to were on fucking Twitter, so I was like, well, shit, I want to talk to them, and so I got to do that, and then from there, it's like, oh, there's a community here of not just shitheads. Okay, like, let's go here. And I feel like a lot of them are Europeans, to be quite honest. A lot of Americans are just brain rotted, and it is what it is. But you guys, you know, I love the diversity of the fandom as well. I find that a lot of German fans do watch a lot of different shit. They're not just in their own little bubble of what's going on in Germany. There's some, but a lot of them are not. You know, at the very least, they watch UK indies and French stuff, and they're very aware of the scene as a whole, and that has been very, very exciting. And I have real conversations with people. Like, I was just talking to, you know, Ian Wrestling, Ian Hamilton,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's like these people are such a wealth of knowledge because they've been watching you guys forever, and they're filling in gaps I have. And yeah, so you mentioned, you know, 4 years ago you started with WXW. The only other UK thing, and I don't know why this came to my mind, but the one thing about the scene back then was that weird moment in time where, like, the UK scene was like YouTube. It was like a big deal. I remember, like, Defiant having sort of like a run. Was there ever any, like, mixing with the Defiant people? Like, what was the deal with that, I guess, would be my question.
So what, as in like me and my involvement with Defiant, or like Defiant and like the rest of the scene, or like Europe, or what?
Right, just like how Defiant, you know, being on YouTube and, like, kind of, you know, if I'm correct, they did like some big World Cup thing and, like, flew all these huge names, like Kurt Angle was over there and stuff. And
yeah, okay, so obviously, like, Defiant started as WhatCulture Pro Wrestling, and from what I'm aware, that was like financed by like the WhatCulture kind of, like, you know, more like pop culture kind of like website, YouTube channel. And like, I didn't really pay much attention to those guys, but my understanding of it all was like, you had the guys on there who were basically like watching wrestling, reviewing wrestling, and they're kind of like watching Raw and being like, this is shit, this is how I'd book it. And a lot of fans like, oh, we love your ideas, why don't you run a wrestling company? And eventually they went, fuck it, why don't we? So they did, I think, the first 2 sets of tapings, which I wasn't a part of, and then me and a couple of guys I was working with, we made the journey from London to Newcastle for, I think, the tapings from like the 3rd set of tapings onwards. And I wasn't like super involved really with like anyone in like the office or backstage or that. We were really just there to film the shows. And that was all like, you know, fine, no issues at all. And they were a lot of fun in the early days, you know, like we were in the O2 Academy in Newcastle. If I remember rightly, I think they sold like 2 rows of seating on all 4 sides and everything else was standing. And the place was like rammed. It would be like midweek, we'd run like a Wednesday and a Thursday. And I'm pretty sure we were hitting like 400, 500, 600 people like Crazy. 2 nights in a row. Yeah, fucking insane. Like, great crowds. And obviously they had like, I think it really, really helped them that they had the whole WhatCulture channel already, which had a lot of momentum behind it. So then when they put their kind of like resources into promoting the actual promotion, WhatCulture Pro Wrestling, it made it a lot easier for them to kind of like hit the ground running. And obviously they were booking a lot of big names, you know, like, and again, like, you know, we saw like the Bucks and Cody come over as like Bullet Club a bunch of times. I remember one show we had fucking Alberto Del Rio was wrestling.
Yes.
Which was crazy. I remember he was with Paige at the time, and that was this was a really awkward journey up because like we were traveling in like this like I think it was like a 10-seater. We had Katrina Waters, Winter was driving, and me and my other camera guy, we're riding like up front with her, chatting to her, and like Del Rio and Paige were like sleeping on the back for the first 3 hours, and then at one point like we woke up, and for the next like I don't know hour at least, they were just eating each other's faces like horny teenagers behind us. It was a little uncomfortable. Yeah. But yeah, like we had him on show. We had like all these like big fucking names come in. And it was cool. And people were really up for it. And they were like trying to like build and like highlight a bunch of UK guys at the same time. Because a couple of the guys who were there, they'd also been previously involved in 1PW. Are you aware of those guys?
Oh, yes. Loved 1PW.
Cool. Yeah, 1PW for me was like, so like we had like the wrestling channel in the UK, and like that was fucking huge for us. And it's where I first like encountered like FWA and a bunch of like awesome wrestling. I saw my first ever shoot interview on there, blew my fucking mind. Incredible stuff. Yeah, so they were on there, and because they had this like awesome mix of talent with like, you know, the top like TNA guys, and then like the best of like the wrestling with these other indies, that was super cool and super interesting. But I think it was obvious they didn't really build like the local talent enough. So like, you know, when it got to the point where they weren't really using as many fly-ins anymore, they weren't doing so well. And I know that with WhatCulture, I think the long-term intention was there to like elevate more of the local guys. But I'm not sure it really worked out in the end because, again, and like this is only my understanding of the situation. I could be slightly wrong, but basically, I think WhatCulture itself saw that like the wrestling was like it was not profitable, you know.
Not.
And so they're like, look, we need to cut ties. This needs to be self-sufficient. And so that's where like it split from WhatCulture and became Defiant. But also that's where like, you know, that roster becomes so much more like UK focused. And that's where I'm like, maybe they didn't do the best job of like really focusing on building and elevating that local talent the way they maybe should have, because, you know, audience numbers really dropped in that time as well. And that was a shame. And I can't remember exactly at which point I stopped working for WhatCulture. I think it was around the start of the World Cup, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay. So pretty early into the actual like Defiant thing.
Maybe. I think they were still WhatCulture at the time before they became Defiant. And I think maybe I did like one-off show when they had become Defiant. But yeah, like I pretty much got a bit like my like other like camera guys, they weren't doing the shows anymore. They were no longer riding with me, and I just got a bit like the travel wasn't anywhere near as fun when I didn't have my friends with me, you know. And I was like, the money isn't good enough to really warrant doing this like, you know, 6-8 hour journey. And as well, like when we started, we'd do 2 nights in the same city back to back. So like what was good about that is you could turn up day one, set up, do the show, go out, have a few beers, relax. Day 2, you're hungover, but then you just like slowly get back into the venue, shoot the show, pack down, go home. Nice.
Yeah.
But then we started doing like, you know, one night Leeds, the next night Sheffield. And it's like, okay. So then, you know, you're going up, you do night 1, but then you got to pack down, and then you're straight in the car to the next fucking town. And like, if the money had been better, I maybe wouldn't have like had so much of an issue with it. You know, if I'd still been like traveling with all my guys, like I probably would have had so much of an issue. But everything like piling on, I was like, nah, I'm boredless. Like I just can't be bothered anymore. And, you know, like I enjoyed the shows still, but it was everything else around the shows. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Well, and that was definitely why I brought it up too, because it's one of those bizarre sort of things in wrestling in the UK is just rife with these promotions where it's like they get hot and you're like, okay, here's something, and they even are like on YouTube, and you're like, okay, this will be easy to follow, and then you
Mhm.
just slowly see it go away, and you start to realize like, oh, they just don't have the money, they don't have it together, the business model, and so I kind of got that vibe, and then of course, you
Mhm.
know, it
Well, I
doesn't,
think part of it as well is that in the beginning, like YouTube revenue was paying really well.
yeah,
And like I think they were doing okay with that. But then I think there was something happened with some kind of American hardcore or deathmatch company. And YouTube advertisers were like, well, wait, like our like ads, our message, our brand is being associated with this shit. And then almost overnight, the revenue on anything pro wrestling related just like dropped. And I think that was one of like the first real warning signs that maybe this isn't quite as sustainable as they first thought.
so you're telling me an American deathmatch promotion fucked it up for everybody? Damn. The people at the Berwyn Eagles Club definitely don't know anything about that. So you did define, well, what culture? I did see here. Yeah, it looks like World Cup was like right before they changed to Defiant. So yeah,
Mhm.
probably you just, you know, tried to hang in there, and like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with
I
you
think it
there.
was sometime around my birthday as well. I think so. Probably
Oh,
like mid to late April. It's probably the last time I did a show from. I want to say it was in Nottingham as well. I don't know why. I've got a really good fucking memory for like where I was when shit happens.
that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I mean, and so from there, where do you go?
I guess this was probably around like I want to say like April 17-ish. So at the time, like I was like doing a lot around London and the southeast, and later that year, like I ended up actually getting so like okay, so let me try and go back. So my mind works faster than my mouth can get it out sometimes.
Yeah, I have that problem
Um,
too.
yeah, yeah, I just looked it up actually. It was fucking March 2017, the World Cup, well, Pro Wrestling World Cup qualifier in Nottingham,
Gotcha.
the English qualifying round. That would have been the last one I bothered doing for them. Anyway, sorry, I digress. I had to do that, or it was going to bug me. So yeah, I was working a bunch down there, and we met up with this dude who actually lived pretty local to me at the time, and he basically had all the live streaming equipment. And IPW had this venue in Rochester, Kent, called the Casino Rooms, and he was doing some MMA down there, and he saw a poster for our event. And so he got in touch and was like, "Oh, I'm doing this. Do you guys want this for wrestling?" And like he was pretty reasonably priced. Tom, his name was. So we started working with him, and he would bring in all this stuff so that we could then live stream our events. And so we were doing stuff at the time. I think it was on Flow Slam. That's how long ago this was.
Oh, Flow Slam.
And then we moved over to Fight, I think, for a few bits.
Hmm.
Um, and then, you know, we would have streamed a few bits like YouTube and Facebook and whatever over the years. But yeah, basically this guy had all this equipment and it was super cool. But like me, he didn't really get along with me in the wrestling so well because he come from like a more pure broadcast background and he didn't always appreciate the chaos of wrestling.
Yeah.
Which I totally said. I've seen many people who are like super fucking talented in their field, and they come from like a like more like calm, organized, professional production background. So when you
Yeah.
throw them into the chaos of wrestling with like last minute changes, things going wrong, and you know, the occasional like F-bomb being dropped, they're like, "Oh, I don't like this," and it's like, so yeah, he wasn't quite right. And I looked into it and I ended up getting a business loan so that I could basically purchase all this like kind of equipment myself and extra cameras and everything I needed so that I could be like, right, we're gonna like basically push him out the equation. I will take the money, I'll do it for the same money he's doing for, and then we will like handle all the live stream stuff myself in-house. So I actually formed my own production company called Firebrand Video. Um,
That's awesome, man.
And yeah, we just started doing a whole bunch of stuff. So I think I got the business loan at the end of 17. And yeah, like in 18, like, you know, business really like was doing well. And like we were doing well basically right up until the pandemic with like shows and streams and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that was the killer. You know, any live event business, it just screeching fucking halt.
Yeah, it was a shame. Well, I mean, like at the time, like, so WrestleTalk did their No Fans Monday, which we produced. And the original idea was that we were basically going to do one of these a week every week during COVID until live events and crowds could properly come back. And that sounded fucking great to me because, like, there was nowhere else I was going to get paid an extra.
Right.
I mean, like, I had a brief chat with, you know, John Briley at Progress because he was still running, but I think they went a different direction in the end. And so, yeah, that would have been cool. But I'm not sure who basically nixed it. It might have been the venue was like, nah, we're not doing this, or we can't do this. Or so, you know, we did the one. And then I think that there was maybe, no, I think that probably would have actually been the last show we shot before like COVID shut us down. And you know, it was a decent enough show. I think it worked well with the whole, like, considering there were no fans, I don't think it could have gone any better or smoother with the production, but that is what it is. Right. And yeah, so then COVID happened, and everything very much went to shit. Actually ended up, I think it was September that year. Ended up having to sell all my equipment for so little money because every freelancer and production company was like so desperate for cash, and we had to move out of London, and we moved in with my wife's parents in rural Ireland for like 18 months.
God damn, man. Yeah.
I mean, like, for someone who's like, you know, grew up on like the outskirts of like East London and has always been around, you know, like, you know, the more like urban kind of thing. Yeah, civilization. You know, I'm used to having like buses, trains, trams, like nearby, stuff within walking distance. And I'm now thrust into the middle of fucking nowhere. Like that was a culture shock.
So you are just like my wife, who is from Miami, that met me from rural Arkansas, and I think she about had a fucking heart attack. And I was like, there's no way you really live out here in the middle of nowhere. And I went, yeah, but look at the sky, the stars. And she went, yeah, pretty. Where's my Starbucks at? And I was like, we don't have one in 50 miles. And she went, well, fuck this. You're going to move to Florida. And I did. So, God, that is a crazy, crazy story. So then you pandemic happens, you survive that, thankfully. And somehow in 22?
Yeah.
You begin with WXW. How in the hell does that start happening?
So, like, at the time, my wife and I, we were trying to run an e-commerce business. It was failing because both of us fucking hated customer service. We were basically like drop shipping flat packed furniture. And of course, there were a lot of issues with breakages, people with problems, and like the margins just weren't fucking high enough for us to like really make any money. I think at the end we made, when we closed the business, it was like we just about broke even. I think we maybe lost $1,000 or so, but we turned over like, well, like, you know, 6 figures. But we lost money because, yeah, the just amount of issues that we had. But yeah, so I'm sitting there one day and I'm on LinkedIn for no real reason. Like, I hadn't really looked at it. I'm not a big user of the site, never really have been. And all of a sudden there's a message sitting there from Felix Kohlenberg. And I'm like, there's a name I recognize, but I've never spoken to.
He was watching the IPW tapes, brother.
Not even like he'd basically seen a whole bunch of my work without realizing it. But they had spoken to another guy, and it's gonna bug me because I can't think of his name. Alan. Fuck, that's gonna bug me. Alan at Smash Wrestling in Canada.
Okay.
And I'm going to look up his surname because that's going to fucking bug the shit out of me if I don't
know who you're talking about, but I'm doing the exact same thing right now. I'm like, wait, there's a million Allens in wrestling. Which one?
Yeah, Alan Taylor, right? Because he's another Englishman. And so, like, you know, me and the wife, we were out in Toronto for 6 months in 2013, 13.
Mm.
And basically, he had kind of like, we'd like stayed vaguely in touch on Facebook. And so they said something like, oh, like, like Alan come over and helped them with a carrot previously. Like, the old head of video culture, she was leaving. It's like, would you be interested, or would you know anyone who might be? And, Alan's like, he married a Canadian girl. I think he's very happy, very settled out there. So that wasn't for him. And he's like, oh, but this guy in the UK? Like, I don't know if he's interested, but it's worth a conversation. So yeah, they asked, and they're like, look, we don't know if you're interested. We're looking for a new head of video, but like, let us know, let's talk. And it's like, oh shit, okay. And it's interesting because, like, as much as I like hated being in rural Northern Ireland, I remember saying to my wife, it's like, I hate it right now, and this is like fucking horrible to me. I'm like, but when we are leaving, it's like, I'll be very apprehensive about moving on. Like, I would have gotten like, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but like I'll still be apprehensive about leaving when the time comes.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got in, I'm like, shit, like, move to Germany, run like the video for WXW. Like, fuck, is this something you want to do? And as soon as someone watches, like, yes, fuck yes, let's do it. I'm like, okay, like, actually gonna like, put the most effort I've ever put into actually writing a proper CV and cover letter. So I tried it a few times in the past, but never for jobs I ever gave a fuck about.
Yeah.
It's why I fucked about in a bar for 10 years. It's why I ended up like, freelancing full-time in like pro wrestling, like, because I turned full-time in pro wrestling in 2016.
God,
which,
yeah, that's crazy, dude. You've been doing shit for a while.
yeah. And if you exclude like the 18 months like COVID took from me, I've been like full-time in this thing for like, I think it was like June 16 I went full-time in this. And I remember when I started, so like, there's no way you as a non-wrestler will ever earn a full-time living from this. And I'm like, all right, fuck you, fucking watch me. And I fucking did.
Sure did.
So yeah, I completely lost my place there. Sorry, I do this.
Oh, so you're talking to your wife about, hey, is this what I want to
Oh yeah,
do?
she's like, fuck yeah. So actually like put together like the best CV I could, the best cover letter, interviewed, and yeah, I think they basically come down to either me or someone from the US. I don't know who. And I think the long and short of it was like, we feel like, you've got the experience, and as well that you'll find it less of a culture shock than the American who applied. And I'm like, shit, cool, let's fucking do this. So yeah. The first time I came out here was for Carrot 22. And yeah, I was instantly like blown away because like obviously we'd like watched everything that they had available on the WWE network at the time, and we could see like there's good production. The video works like better than most. And there's some cool shit going on. There's some interesting characters, like it's produced like compared to like most indies really fucking well. So we're like, cool, like let's go see it. And like the first time you walk into the Forbidden Hut and you see the size and scale of that thing, was like, wow, this is huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, like just was there that weekend, mainly just like meeting the team, watching the production, like I directed the Showcase and Friends show on the Saturday morning, and yeah, it was like totally cool. And then I think after then we returned back, like all of us caught fucking COVID that weekend as well, because it's literally our own fault. We were sitting in the hotel bar Sunday night, sharing a bottle of Jaeger, just everyone passing it back and forth. We were fucking idiots. Like everyone got ill. So yeah, got ill as fuck, and then returned to like Ireland for a bit. And then I think it was maybe end of March we flew out here to like be here full time. And yeah, just like hit the ground running, just like doing shows, like found the apartment, which wasn't easy because German is not a language I still speak well at all. Like it's so fucking hard. And yeah, I just picked up with the shows and doing all that shit, and yeah, been here ever since, and it's been fucking awesome.
That's really great to hear because you would think of a place like Germany, like, God, it's going to be rough. And they're very smart in saying what they said about, you're going to be able to handle this more than an American. Because let me tell you, I deal with Americans obviously every day, all day, and I work in retail. And let me tell you, they're fucking stupid as fuck. And they're getting dumber every day. And it's everywhere. It is. But I can tell you for certain that Americans are a special brand of stupid. And it's not even just stupid. They're very comfy. And if they're not comfy, it's a problem. And
Mm.
I would imagine in Germany, there's little things that would drive an American nuts. Like, for instance, ice, having fucking AC everywhere you go. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
there's these historical things, and again, I know because in England it's very similar, and because my wife has jokingly told me before, like, before we go to Europe, you're gonna have to, like, and I'm like, I'm not like a fucking plebe here, all right? Like, we're good. I know I'm from the woods, but I have read a couple books. But um, what do you love most about Germany, though, that maybe isn't even a thing in England or is different?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't know if I can answer off the top of my head. Um, I mean, maybe just the fact that shit is more direct. I like at first, like I think I maybe equated it to like rudeness, but no, Germans are just more direct in a lot of stuff they say. Whereas in England, like people will try and like they'll go around the houses a little bit what they say to try and avoid upsetting anyone, rather than just saying the thing. Whereas in Germany they just say the thing, and it's not to be rude, it's not to be mean, it's just rather than like trying to be like, in England, we don't just want to say no, but like, yeah, but like, because of this and this, so like maybe we shouldn't, blah, 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 blah. Here, I'll just say no, just because it's easier to say no, get it out the way, like we know where the fuck we stand. And yeah, I like that. Because as well, I feel like I can be a lot more blunt than the average Englishman. And it probably suits my sensibilities a little bit more.
Yeah, because the first time I ever talked to Felix, I thought he hated me because he was just very. It wasn't even anything he said or did, to be fair. Just in case he hears this, and he's like, "What did I say?" It was just like you said. I was just like, "Hey, I would like to interview you. That sounds fine." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I'm like, "What day works for you? This day." And then, like, obviously I got him on, and he's the greatest human being like ever in wrestling I think I've talked to, of just being somebody that's genuinely nice, genuinely interested in you and what you're saying, which is not normal. I know you know that. um I feel like most people in wrestling just want to talk about themselves the whole time, and you know what I mean.
Mm.
And so that is definitely something I've noticed as well. Is Germans are very to the point, but I do also think Germans are really open a lot more than most cultures in terms of just different ideas and different things. Um, yeah, I don't know. I definitely feel like there's a lot more openness to Germans than a lot of people realize. I think they get this weird stereotype that they're very stuffy and serious, and I don't see that actually. I think it's just they're very like you said, they're direct, but they're really really nice people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like, they're maybe not going to open up to you if they don't know you. So and a lot of,
Yes.
and I think especially for Americans as well, more so than like Brits. In America, I've been there a couple of times. There's a very like, forced like niceness and familiarity with people. Like, you might know something. Oh, great, see you. How are you doing? What's going on? It's like they don't really care, but like they're just being overly friendly, like overly nice, and it's just like back the
Mm-hmm.
fuck up, please. Like we don't even know each other. Um, Whereas, I do think that, like, with both like the Germans and the Brits, and I think Europeans for the most part as a whole, it's very much like, we'll be polite, but we're not really going to like open up too much or get too familiar until we get to know each other because, like it's weird to kind of like just be that open with someone you don't actually know yet. And I mean, sometimes, you meet people and you just click and it's easy. But, for the most part, yeah, I think for Europeans as a whole, it's just weird to be that like open with people immediately,
Yeah. Oh,
And again,
absolutely.
it's not out of rudeness. I think as well, it's a little bit more like respect. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to burden you with my issues because you don't even know me. So, I'm not expecting you to fucking burden me with yours, that kind of shit.
Absolutely. And as the son of a ex felon, I can appreciate, you know, the not being open right away. Like my wife used to be like, God, you're just so like, you don't really want to talk to people. It's like, well, what do I need to say? You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
speak until
yeah.
spoken to. That's part of it too. I don't know. It's very old school as well. But yeah. What if I'm trying to think of how to even ask this other than being like, what is your favorite thing you've done in WXW? Because that seems kind of like empty. But what show blew you away most that you have produced?
Ooh, it's a really good question. I don't know. I really don't know. And I think partly it's, I don't like, I'm not one to sit there and kind of like dwell on a show, whether it's for the good or the bad.
Yeah.
Um, it might be like, oh, we had a great show this weekend. Ah, we did a bit shit this weekend, but I don't dwell on it and I don't really think about it because as well, there's always something new coming up. There's so much more stuff to focus on, and I think that's both a good and a bad thing. I maybe don't celebrate my wins enough, but I know as well, I don't waste my time commiserating my fuck ups and losses too bad. I try and learn from them, pick up the lesson, move on. And again, if something went really well, it's like, cool, that's some really good shit. Let's make sure we kind of carry that on and keep on doing that stuff. And then it's, very much onto the next event. And especially when, like easy, the biggest stuff we do is the festivals. But like, it's a solid like 4 weeks of prep to get into the festivals with, everything I need to kind of do and manage. And then the weekend comes and it's 7 shows in 4 days on like no fucking sleep and far too much alcohol for a weekend. And then we come out the other side and it's an insane amount of fucking like post-production, and previously that was getting the vlogs out, now it's getting shotgun out, and just adding all the subtitles to the shows, like redoing the audio mix, like processing all those renders, sending them up, uploading them to WXW Now, send them to our partners at Triller and IWTV. And then just when you think like, I've got a minute to rest, you're like, shit, it's like a week until 16 Karat Gold Revenge. So now I've got to enter like prep mode for this next show. And, it can be a bit chaotic where you maybe don't have enough time to breathe in the festival season. But also I get bored really, really fucking easily. I need a lot to kind of occupy my mind. So, I kind of rather be busy than not. And, like, as I told you, like when we were setting up the this interview today, like this weekend, we're traveling like 6 hours east to do Dresden and Leipzig. Then I've got like 3 intense days of post-production before I'm then going off to do 4 days of MMA. And then maybe in like, 10 days, I can have a day off. But we'll see. But like that probably will be my first like proper bit of a break since the start of this year, because it's been like crazy in a good way. Like we're doing so much awesome shit, like, and just like looking at how good shit's going, not just like from like a wrestling perspective, but also how well like videos doing, looking at kind of our numbers on now on Triller, on IWTV, seeing how we're doing there. Like that's awesome, and hopefully we can like carry us on, and looking at how well Shotgun's been doing. And, we're also thinking like, okay, that's good. What can we do better? What comes next? How do we improve these numbers? Like, yeah, it never ends. But I kind of need that because my brain just doesn't shut the fuck off unless I've been drinking.
Dude, I'm right there fucking with you. I mean, I literally, yeah, I'm doing this with you, and then I get to crunch a month of WCW from 92 to
Nice.
then do a podcast tomorrow about the Great American Bash 92. And I'm the whole time watching whatever, and then I'm listening to podcasts at work. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I'm finally at the point where it's like, why would I not be busy? Like, I feel like I'm wasting
Mm.
time if I'm not doing something.
I have always felt like that. And a lot of time, like one thing is I feel like if I'm just watching TV, I'm kind of wasting time. And actually, like, I'm 40 now, and the more that the older I get, the more I feel like I do need to just like rest and relax sometimes. Because I can't just be go all the time, because then I just get like beaten, broken down, and that ain't good to anyone. But yeah, it's like I think when you kind of look at me and the way my brain operates, it makes sense that my like job on shows is to basically stare at 4+ camera feeds and like talk non-stop, directing like 4 different operators and like control the graphics and the audio and all this other stuff. Because like to me, like that's not even overwhelming. Like it feels so easy and comfortable to me, and I think that's like that's very much a me thing. And it's why, like, if you get me like, oh, we just need to do this one little thing, I'm like, that's boring. And I get very easily distracted when I'm bored. Like if something doesn't engage me, like holy fuck, it's not good. Like it's like we just put up the Earthlet release last night, and I was doing the hard cam on that, and like truthfully I really struggle to concentrate on that at times because it's just not kind of exciting enough. And that's probably terrible to say, but like I'm just like, I'm so bored. Like I need more to do, but that's not the job, and I really struggle to focus on that, doing that.
You're like sitting there like, fuck, we're not streaming this live, that sucks. At least I'd be doing this or that.
I mean, even streaming live wouldn't really make much of a difference, because it's just
true.
streaming. Like it's a bit like, so when I was a ringside camera operator, I would do a lot of stuff, very dynamic camera work. Like I would be riding the zoom constantly. I would do like crash zooms on like certain bumps and strikes. And of course, like the better I got to like read a match, like the more like the intensity of the crash zoom would match up with what we're seeing. And I did that just because I got fucking bored just holding a static 2-shot. I'm like, I can't just do this. I need more. And yeah, my brain just cannot allow me to just like do something simple. I need constant like what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Stimulation.
Well, okay, you need constant stimulation. However, I feel like I finally figured out the beef here with you and Met, because I feel like you two have the same level of energy.
I would say he's probably got more energy than me, but that's probably because he's a younger motherfucker. Like,
well, he does, and I, sorry, I'll take the heat for him being late that day to the academy. At one point, we're talking, and he goes, shit, I just got a text from Peter that hey, you're gonna be here in 10, and I will not be there in 10. And I was like, dude, we can stop. He's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, oh my god, you're gonna have Robert Dreisker beating the shit out of you in a second.
Yeah, like he has a lot of fucking energy, and I kind of wish I had that much energy still. I think he's pretty like, he's got more physical energy, whereas my brain is just like the whole fucking time,
Yeah. Another guy that has a lot of physical fucking energy is Felix Kohlenberg, by the way, because I was watching an old fucking stream, and it's awesome. I'm like, dude, I kind of relate to it, because he had the really boss setup at the time of the standing desk, which I really appreciate. And I mean, he was arms everywhere talking, and I was like, yeah, that kind of fits what I would imagine Felix being.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously we've not got the cameras on now, but like my arms have been everywhere during this fucking
I'm everywhere. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm like reaching for shit that I don't even need. Yeah.
So. Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I need that constant stimulation on shit, and like I'm always like, so what do I do next? How do I get bigger? And like, we've gone on a mad fucking tangent from like, what was the best thing I ever got to produce? And yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you. Because I'm always looking to do more and add more. And like, the one thing I'd really love to add, and it's one thing, we haven't really got the budget for to get the system in that we want, is replays to what we do. And, I've been talking about this for a while. It's like, if and when the budget's available, it's like, yeah, we'll do this. But it's like if we're going to do it, it's like, oh, I want to do this right. I don't want to just like do a replay of what people have already seen on the stream. It's like I want to be able to pick the exact camera to slow-mo it, to maybe slow-mo it from both angles, or maybe like all the angles we didn't see. Like, because when I do this MMA stuff with GMC, like we've got a replay system there, and just like being able to add these replays in, being able to like do this stuff, so much fun. And when we did the fucking Manders and Bloom Texas Death Match last year, I have never wanted replays in wrestling more in my fucking like the pace at which like the match was delivered. There were these great moments where it's like they did like huge crazy spot, boom, now they're both down selling. Now I could show the replay. I could show you every motherfucking angle, slow-mo that son of a bitch, come back, they're still down selling, then they get up, blah, 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 next thing. And it would have been so fucking cool. But yeah, those systems aren't cheap, sadly. And my tastes aren't cheap in production equipment either. Like literally, you could be like, okay, Mark, here's 1 million euros. Go out, upgrade like everything, get like whatever the fuck you want. You've got a budget of 1 million. And I'll be like, oh yeah, sure, cool. And I'll probably come back to you and be like, so about that 1 million, I think we're gonna need a little more.
Yeah, 1.5 million. Does that sound right?
Right? Yeah, just
no.
Like I just want everything to be the absolute best it fucking can be. So it's like, oh, what can we do to upgrade like our cameras, our vision mix, our streaming, our audio? What can we do to make life simpler with this, and this? And like I've already got like so many ideas on stuff, which if we had the money, like we could streamline like so much of our setup and teardown, which would be beautiful. But it's like realistically, that's a lot of money we'd need to spend on stuff which isn't really going to get as much in the way of results other than it's going to save us a bit of time. So it's hard to justify that when that same amount of money could be that same amount of money could be spent on the replay system, and that would get us better results. So yeah, but yeah, I could spend all that money and then some, and I would probably have Taz and Felix fucking losing their minds at me.
That's that's a question I would like to hear an answer on. We Felix is really the sort of front facing guy from backstage. He's very open to fans. He's on Twitter. He's on Instagram, all that stuff. But Taz isn't. He seems like a more private guy, but yet I'm so fascinated by him. I feel like he's a good dude, and really, when I watch the timelines, I'm like, that's the analytical guy right there. Like that guy's breaking down numbers and shit. Like the way that they like talk about how they like brought the company together and how that became organized. Like, what's it like dealing with Taz? I feel like he's a really cool dude.
Yeah, no, like he's so fucking smart. I think as well, like when he's talking about negotiating and doing deals, I think like he's very, very smart fucking businessman, and he's always looking for a win-win. And there's been situations where it's like, okay, maybe like on the first round out, maybe WXW won't get in the win or the size of win we'd like, but he's looking at a long-term goal. Whereas I've worked with other people in the past where they're like, oh, like no, I've got to win everything, and it's like well, in business you don't need to win everything. Like, what about the other side? How do you like? What are they getting out of this? But I've seen people like, no, I've got to win. I've got to profit on every tiny individual little transaction, and it's kind of like, yeah, but sometimes you need like what I know in the supermarkets would call like a loss leader to like be the thing that people come in because they need and buy it, because then you're going to sell all this extra upsell shit. And like, or, maybe it's like you lose a little bit here, but look at like everything else you're going to gain from this long term. And Taz definitely sees that bigger picture when it comes to business. And yeah, like super fucking intelligent, incredible fucking memory.
Yeah.
Like insanely good.
Yeah, he's like talking about shit from like 2002 on the timeline, and Felix is just looking like, sounds great, like, yeah, that would be the dude to go to for any and all WXW history. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure he remembers like pretty much in full every match he's ever been involved in. So,
oh, I believe it, yeah, because you could like bring up an event and you know, on those timelines he's like, oh yeah, that was the ambition where that guy, and I was like, whoa, I don't even remember that. So a good thing he's running things, you know what I mean? It's like that's what you
Mm.
need a guy like that. But then that's why I think WXW is so genius, because you've got Felix too. And I think maybe that is the answer here, is it isn't the buck stops with one person. I think the magic to WXW is it really does feel like a collaborative effort. And yes, there are, you know, final says, but it doesn't feel like this big, like one person's vision, but it is very focused.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing is, when you've got like one person and it's all based on their vision, then you know they've got blind spots, they've got weaknesses, and there's things they're not always going to execute well. Whereas, you know, if you've got a collective of people, then it can be easier to like bounce ideas off and come up with ideas that are stronger and better than just that initial one idea. Obviously, you know, you can get groups that are too big and too complex, and then the good ideas get watered down too much in, you know, an attempt to appease everyone on that committee. But obviously, we certainly don't have that here. But yeah, it's definitely like, you know, you take everyone's strengths and like, I feel like everyone else's strengths help cover for someone else's weaknesses to just, you know, make the strongest like team and products imaginable.
Absolutely. I think that that is exactly the vibe you want, you know. And then that way too, it isn't, when you guys fail, you all fail. And I think that makes all of you work harder, because like it's across the board. I can't point one person out in WXW as a wrestler, anything, where I could safely say, well, yeah, they're not giving it their all.
Mm.
Like I never have watched, especially this like modern product right now, the last, you know, 12 months. It's like, because it feels like if you are that person, you're just not going to be invited back. Like, and there's a quote, and it was, and I even rewound it the other day. I was watching, just, you know, your guys' WXW Now thing's great because there's everything on it. There's like weird sit downs with guys, and there was a live stream of it was you, Taz, and Felix.
The fan forums.
Yes, which amazing. And Felix said something, and I think it was in reference to you, because this was not long after you showed up. He
Mm.
said, you know, the thing with us is there are people that just they can't work how we work. And the thing about WXW is, you know, we have a way we do things. And I kind of giggled, and my wife, her maiden name is very German. So I always give her shit about like, you know, oh, you know, maybe this German shit is going to unlock something in you. And so I rewound that. And I said, what do you think he means by that? And of course she gives me the dirty look, because I know what that means. That means, you know, a lot of things, but I feel like what comes through with WXW at the end of the day is it is a absolute standard of excellence. If we're not 100% sure about this, then you better do everything you can to execute it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like everyone here wants to be the absolute fucking best. And everyone is here because they want to be here, you know?
Right.
Like there's no one like, let's put this, like there might be some people who might be, because like, actually I'm not gonna say it because I don't even think that's true for a minute. I don't think there's anyone here just because it's their local indie and they'd rather be somewhere else.
Right.
I think everyone here really, you know, understands and appreciates like how big and how amazing WXW is, and wants to be here and wants to do the best job possible. And, you know, regardless of like, you know, what it is you're doing, what department it is like you're kind of like running, everyone's like wanting to do the best, to be the best. And it's like, you know, trying to inspire their people beneath them to be the best and do their best with it. Whether it's, you know, me and my guys as part of the video team, whether that's, you know, some of the guys, you know, you wouldn't even know, like Danny and like the fucking crew who work their asses off every fucking show, to, set up the ring and the chairs and the banners and, just get the building ready so that, I've got a show to film, so the wrestlers have a fucking show to wrestle in. Jenny and Mimi are amazing fucking ring crew, right? Like, they work their asses off to be the best. Like, there's everyone here works to be the best. And as well, like Matt, like, he strives to be the best he can on commentary and to help all these fucking co-commentators to be the best they can be, so that,
even Norman Harris.
I mean, Norman Harris, what the fuck can you do with a guy like that?
Yeah, I tweeted the other day, is it safe for me to say I love Norman Harris on commentary?
I think actually, like, Norman and Matt, like the stuff they did on that last show, Frankfurt, it's like the best commentary Norman's ever done.
Absolutely.
And like, I've been trying to find that side of Norman on commentary for like 3 years now. And I messaged him the other day. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck happened, what the fuck changed, but like, I'm so fucking glad it did and you found this, because like, like, his best commentary by such a long distance, it's unreal. And so like, Norman's on commentary with Matt again this weekend for Dresden and Leipzig. So, I'm looking forward to like more of that fucking back and forth. Because like, like, you get guys who want to be a heel on commentary and, they either like try and make it all about themselves, or they detract from the match, or they like force the play-by-play to get too sucked into whatever the bullshit they're arguing over.
Yeah.
But like, for the most part, they kept everything, whether it was like a fucking argument or bickering or whatever else, like they kept it focused and relevant to what we're seeing happen with these two characters, these two wrestlers in the ring. And yeah, I like that that Norman was pushing Matt in ways he hasn't been pushed before, and that he's getting tested there as well. That made it fun for me to listen to.
Oh yeah, and Matt, he jumped right on it. He knew that Norman was trying to get him on the ice. He's trying to get him to slip, and he was like, "Not today, motherfucker. I'm gonna throw it on you too." That's when it's good. That's when it's really, really good. But I was talking to you about this, and of all the things that drive you crazy about independent production, what's the worst? I think I know.
Yeah, it is fucking dog shit audio. Holy fuck, do I hate it. I hate it with a fiery passion. And like, obviously I've got like my background as like, a musician, like sound engineer, audio engineer, and that's such a huge fucking help. But genuinely, it pains me, especially when I see companies put so much effort into like the live event production and the video production that they then like fall on the fucking audio. And I cannot begin to tell you how many different, like, camera operators, directors, producers I've had this conversation with over the years. And I'm just like, you need to make your audio better. Like, yeah, but I'm not an audio guy. I'm like, yeah. And there was a time you weren't a fucking video guy either. Fucking learn.
Right.
Like, I wasn't a fucking video guy at one point. I learned it. And, I like to think I got good at that. And again, like, the audio stuff helps because there's a lot of like similar principles. But you can learn this shit. There was a time you didn't know how the fuck to hold or focus or expose a shot on a camera. And now look at you go. You're fucking great at that. Figure out the fucking audio too, you prick.
Yeah, come on, guys. And here's my deal. And this is something that I really do believe more indies need to do, because it saves you money at the end of the day. If you don't have your shit together with audio, and more specifically good commentators, just don't have them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's like, there's so many commentators out there who they think they're good, but I listen to them and I'm like, and it's like, it's funny actually. Like, we've just got a new guy we're starting to develop on a commentary, English speaker here in Germany. Because like Matt's training like German speaking guys, but I can't really get too involved because my German is so bad still. I can give some advice, but I can't give enough advice because there's so many details I'm missing. But we're working with an English guy, and we were doing a session yesterday, just trying to get him up to speed on like, and it's his first session with us. And it's like, I say that as a commentator, commentating on a match, there are three things that you can do with your commentary. You can add to the match. You can make it bigger, better, more interesting, more exciting, more relevant through what you say. You can just add noise to the match, where you're just talking, you're adding noise. It's not really adding anything to the match. It's not really taking away. Or you can take away from the match. What you do can be so like bad or distracting or just downright fucking wrong that you're not doing justice to what we're seeing. And like, it's impossible for someone to hit the first all the time. I think probably the nearest is Dave Bradshaw. He's fucking amazing.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Right. Most people will do number two with some number one. Sometimes they'll add, but most times it's just going to be a little bit of noise until they get a moment or a spot or an angle or just something where they can add to it and help that moment. But most time it's just kind of adding noise and relaying and helping and like that story be told. But so many guys are taken away from it, either by like being too outrageous about the things they're saying, or like I posted something like this the other day. Like there was a guy I was watching, and his energy's at a fucking 10, but the match in the crowd are at a 6. I'm like, brother, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you're killing the match. You're killing me because like now the audio's distorted. The audio was actually fine on that stream before then, but you're killing your own credibility. If this is like when you're suddenly at 10, you're biggest, craziest, most fucking exciting, and we're at a 6 and we're somewhere in the mid card, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, you just lost all credibility with me. Like, how can I believe anything you say? And I mean, at the same time, he was like saying that one of the guys, like, oh, he's like the greatest thing. He's the future. He's got all this like potential and really putting him over. But like, you know, they were booked to have something, you know, an 8-minute 50-50 match. And it's like, well, he doesn't really look like the future to me. Like he's fine, you know, like there's nothing I say particularly bad about the wrestler, but you just told me he's like the most special fucking thing I need to look out for. And he just went 50-50 with this other guy. And it's not like the other guy was like, you know, such a big star that it meant something for this, like, you know, apparent unknown. But also, like, if he wasn't unknown, then you should have been telling me a very different story. Like, yeah, I hate this shit. Like, this shit just isn't like relevant and in tune with the energy or the story or anything else that's happening. And commentators just talk and take massive shits on matches, and it kills me. And like, the whole reason I'm so fucking passionate about commentary is because, like, I see like the wrestlers out there, you know, killing themselves to put, you know, these fucking amazing matches on. And I know that, you know, me and my team, like, we're killing ourselves to capture this match and to in such a way so that, you know, for the people at home who are watching this, they understand that, you know, the story, the energy, the emotion, the drama in the best way possible. So like, if at the last hurdle you sit there and you take a giant fucking dump on it with your commentary, I get fucking angry. And it's why like I get so involved with commentary, and it's one of the reasons I've been so involved with, like, you know, really helping and pushing and like evolving our commentary teams since I arrived here in WXW.
Yeah, that has definitely been something that has very clearly jumped off the page, is just how important commentary is. And, you know, again, that kind of coincides with the development of Met. You know, he has just, I mean, and I'll keep saying it, I think he's right up there with the best on the indies. I think Dave Bradshaw's the standard. And everybody else, to be really honest, is way under him. And I mean, I know Matt would say that. So it's what you said. It's not easy to add to a match and truly add to it. I think people misunderstand what that means. And I think they add as in, you know, add noise. No. You have to add to the story of the match. And a big problem, I think, is people watch Heenan, or listen to Heenan, I guess. And you need to realize that the reason Heenan is because no one else was doing that shtick. So when now everyone does that shtick, you got to go the other way. And that's why I love Met. Because Met goes that analytical analyst angle. And that's something lost on most commentary today.
Yeah, and actually, like, I think if we look back at like the Pro Wrestling Grand Prix, the Femme Fatale final between Anita Vaughan and Sapphire Reed, you look at the commentary that Dave Bradshaw and Ricky Slater added to that, and they really helped like elevate the match, the moment, the story, the drama, so much so that, you know, I had Anita Hall messaging me after, like, holy shit, like, they made watching that match so much better because of everything they added and the stories they told. And like, what I also think with commentary is super important is like, most guys are like play-by-play commentators, right? Because for the most part, guys just end up doing like solo commentary at their local indie, or maybe they're doing it solo at home. So then when you come to a show where suddenly there's two of you on a booth and you both do play-by-play, one of you like should take the back seat, let the other lead whilst you become the color. But most guys' egos won't let them, or maybe they're too stupid to. I don't know what the real answer is. Like, and you know, I'm not trying to fucking bury anyone here, but literally I see clips online of like commentators posting shit like, oh, we did so well with this call. And it's just two play-by-plays taking turns to shout, but not really working with each other. But you look at that match and like AV and Sapphire, and Ricky takes the back seat that week and lets Dave lead because, like, you know, Ricky's really good, but he knows he ain't no fucking Dave Bradshaw. And he knows that his instinct is to call shit the same way. So he goes, how the fuck can I still add to this match, add to this commentary, like play a meaningful part here whilst not stepping on Dave's toes? Because, you know, the minute he does that, then he kind of like, he causes problems for like the both of them for the product. And he went to a very different place, found a very different way to add drama and interest and depth to everything. And like, I genuinely think that match is some of the finest fucking commentary like I've ever had the pleasure of listening to over like my work. And like my team's work. And I've said that to like Dave and Ricky. I said it to all our commentators. I'm like, listen to this fucking match. Like, if you don't listen to anything else, listen to this one fucking match, because these two guys do such an amazing fucking job here. And I think it, you know, that's something for people to study, especially if they like might have heard Ricky's work elsewhere as a play-by-play, or even elsewhere that weekend as a play-by-play. And then you listen to him on that match and how he takes that backseat and finds a very different way to add and contribute than he normally would. That's what commentators should like aim for when they go to a show and there's two play-by-plays, and finding that different way and not being afraid to be like, I'm not going to let my ego get the better of me and I'm going to insist on being the play-by-play. Like, I'll let you be play-by-play and I'm going to just find a way to do something differently, but still be meaningful and like something that contributes to this. And yeah, so fucking like happy with what those guys did. I think it's a fucking wonderful example.
Yeah, it's tremendous. And you know, as I've already said, I feel like you guys just continue to expound on, you know, you're breaking your own records. You know, it's like every broadcast I'm like, oh man, you know, it's a little better, or it's, you know, at least that consistent standard throughout. And a lot of it too is you have some really fucking great wrestling to shoot. You know, like
it does make it so much easier.
Oh my God,
I'm not gonna lie.
This fucking Dresden card's crazy. You got Ilya Bloom and Thomas Shire, Ricky Sosa, Zoltan, Axel Tischer, of course, coming back home. And then a sleeper match that I think is going to maybe steal the show is Dieter Schwartz against Peter Tahani. And so it's like, I mean, it also, you know, you mentioned it earlier. It's like you just kind of keep going. And then the next day you're in Leipzig, and it's like, maybe that's the trick, right? You know, there's a lot of conversation right now online, especially with the American fans, about how little American wrestlers are wrestling. And the conversation of there's a lot of indie wrestlers that are just straight up saying, listen, we are wrestling more than contracted talent. So when you call out, you know, all these TV talents, quote unquote, to come to these shows and take our spots, they're probably not going to give you as good of a match anyway. And it's the difference, I think, with you guys is you don't have that problem. You know, you guys are a regularly running promotion, and I know you have like a lean time in the summer for, you know, obvious reasons. I think is that when the Euro is going on, the soccer stuff?
I mean, maybe I don't follow it. But I think as well, it's just like, you know, the summer months are just a bit quieter. More people are likely to be away. Yeah. And, you know, more than anything else, you know, like the winters can be long and miserable here. Like this year, the winter was fucking long and fucking miserable. So I think in the summer, people are just going to want to be outside more. So, you know, there's not that need to run as many shows. And then, you know, like once we kind of kick it all off again with the festival in September, then it's back to, the usual kind of crazy schedule again until it calms down, like, next April, and the cycle continues.
Yeah, and I am gonna hold Felix to his. He had mentioned to me, he was like, let's get into this catch shit that's coming out from the '80s and stuff, and like we
Mm.
should do like a little like podcast while we're off in the summer. And I'm like, look, listen, Felix, you want to fucking offer me something like that? I will absolutely be down. So, um, yeah. That's the only reason I knew you guys even slowed down was because he mentioned it. So you can tell he's looking forward to it, and I can't fucking imagine because this is crazy. I mean, just being a fan of all this shit, let alone following it as a business, would be grueling. But yeah, I mean, I really have no further questions, sir. Uh, you've been a pleasure. I can't thank you enough for even wanting to be on here. I definitely have the biggest imposter syndrome ever with this shit because sometimes I'm just like, I'm just a dude. But you guys are so welcoming, and you've all, I mean, literally across the board, anyone I've asked to do the show, Robert Dreisker, full disclosure, was not anyone's fault. We had it scheduled. It was a miscommunication. He will fucking be on here. I will make sure of that because I want to talk to Avalanche, man. But yeah, you all are just so nice.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think to us, it's just like, why wouldn't you be nice? I don't know. Like, yeah, it seems very strange, like, to me at least, that, that, this would be any different to how anyone else would, like, treat you. So, yeah, but thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
Oh, dude, living in America and being a wrestling fan in America, yeah, dude, it's not normal. There's so much elitism. There's so much just, whoa, fuck you. How many followers do you have? There's a lot of that. So, um, and I think too that like my biggest sell to Felix was like, I'll at least be entertaining to talk to. I can give you that. I promise. I'll bring up some stupid shit that you haven't thought about in forever. That's my fucking that's my special weapon. So yeah, you can see Mark everywhere on fucking social media if you look up Marc Shuttle. Um you guys literally run constantly. You got a show tomorrow, as I mentioned, Dresden. We got Leipzig coming up. You got fucking Drive of Champions coming up in June. You got
Yep.
Yunakiyama coming in. It's just
Yep.
like,
That's got a stacked card.
holy shit.
And
So,
I think there's a bunch of stuff which hasn't even been announced yet that is gonna like blow your mind.
oh, I know. Felix, I think he definitely takes glee in like, hey, there might be something coming up. There was something with Carrot where he was like, just pay attention. And it was like Yamato. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if anyone is on the fence out there listening on WXW, now is literally the time to jump in. It's all great. Also, the new shotgun's incredible. They've all been great. I love the match that came out last week. What was it, Mark Empire?
Yeah. Empire and Murashima.
There it was. They're fucking incredible. And then Morishima and M4 in the show from
From
Urfa.
Eartha. Yeah.
That was fucking incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously.
like I'm impressed by Murashima, and like
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see how much he develops over this next 12 months he's with us. Because he's a strong motherfucker as well, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to see some of the stuff he gets involved in over this next 12 months. It's going to be awesome.
So, yes, go follow WXW everywhere. Tune in. And yeah, thank you again, Mark. And until next time, see you.